You're on, Ron. Anytime.
Nothing open.
Yep. I don't think we're on.
We'll call this meeting to order.
There we go.
Please note that this meeting will be live streamed. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof?
I'll declare their conflict on G1.
On G1? Okay. Public hearings, Paul?
We have two public hearings tonight. The first one, under Section 34 of the Planning Act, a public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comments on the zoning bylaw amendment application. The applicant is Dorian Koss, and the purpose is to rezone property located at 585 Old Webwood Road in the town of Espanola from rural to rural special exception 4 in order to permit an automotive repair shop as a home occupation accessory to the main use, which is a single family road. To date, we received one inquiry for clarification on the application, and we've received 2 written letters of support for the application. So we'd ask if there's anybody here to speak to the application.
None. All right. In delegations,
We have one more public
Oh,
hearing.
I'm sorry.
So the second public hearing is a notification on the provisions of bylaw 2068/08, which is holding a public hearing for the purpose of receiving comments on a request from Camp Quality Northern Ontario. And it's for temporary exemption to bylaw 1966-07, which is setting off fireworks, and bylaw 1189-96, which is noise control regulations, which is an exemption to noise control regulations. And that'd be granted for Camp Quality Reunion on Saturday, September 23rd, to permit the Espanola Fire Department to set off fireworks on the track and field.
thank you.
And is there anybody here to speak to
And
that?
is there anybody here to speak to that? All right. In delegations this evening, we have Mr. Carrier. Please, sir.
Hi, my name is Eve Carrier. I don't know if you've ever noticed me here sitting in the crowd during budget delegation, but I've been coming to the odd meeting when I have time. The reason I'm here is I want to talk to you about the proposed bylaw for recycling. And for the record, I recycle or recover about 60% of my home waste. I recycle, I compost, I do everything that you got, and I do that. So I'm a recycler, but I'm still against the position, how you want to do it. And the reasons for it is, you know, the last thing you want to see around here, and that I've seen in another municipality, is another 20 dumps. Because I feel, because people are so restricted, this is what's going to happen. And then next year, during budget deliberation, I'll be standing here seeing the superintendent of public works requesting to spend another 200 man hours and equipment time to get those places cleaned up because there's garbage all over the place. The other places you're going to see it is in the dumpsters for the businesses. The businesses are going to suffer from that also. I've seen it other places. So I'm just making council aware of it. This is, you know, when I was in the other municipality I was from, I didn't recycle. And the reason I didn't recycle, because it was too complicated. If you you complicate things too much there, you're not going to get any. Right now, your recycling here is about 88%. I asked the question, that's the response I got. You're at 88%. So how you do it is you do it with education. Educate the people. You got 3 to 4, even 5% of people here don't recycle because they don't know which week is which. Have it read on your website. This week it's plastic week or cardboard week. Make it simple. But don't start with all these plastic bags and who's going to monitor this, and you're complicated everything. And excuse me, and it's not to take a short account, but it sounds like the provincial or federal government. And we don't need to complicate things. Make it simple. People will follow it. The other, you can get another 1-2%. Right now, when I go for a walk, I see people have the wrong week. So yeah, you got more recycling because this week was plastic, and I was seeing a few bins out while I was walking. It had cardboard out, you know. So that's where you need to educate and make people smart. You want to get to the waste, what do you call this, waste act there that the government of Ontario passed, Waste Recovery Act, or whatever you call it. Anyways, by 2018 we need to be at 30%. We're already here at 50%. We're already at the targets for 2030. So, you know, we got lots of good things. Let's keep doing it the good way. People, if you get people to do it in a voluntary manner, you're gonna get a lot more. If you think you're gonna get 100%, get your head out of the sand. That'll never happen. If you can get over 95%, hey, we're doing real good here. And if you don't believe me, just go look at Highway 17 in the spring. People still throw trash out the window, all right? No, there's a fact of life. But if we can get to 95%, you get your point. Now, the trick to all this is bring me to 75%. That's how you bring recycling up here in Espanola. Let me recycle styrofoam, construction material, all this other waste. That's how you get people involved in it and that. Explain to people that you got, you're getting a rebate of 6-7 grand if we recycle more. Explain that to taxpayer. Explain that you get government incentive up to whatever 30, 40, 50,000 you get. If you got all the right points and all that, you're going to get a lot more points through the government if it's on a voluntary basis. Believe me. So basically, I know it's not passed the bylaw. That's why I'm here. It's a lot easier to make change or not to change your mind, but to look at the bylaw you're trying to pass before it's passed, because it's a lot harder to change it. Because you guys make all your homework, do everything, find out how, then you pass the law, and then that's it, right? You get a little bit of flack, but at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to do it now. So my thing is, I want you to reconsider this a little bit. Make it so people in Espanola want to recycle. It's a lot easier. Me, I'm not for the clear plastic bag. I got a roll this big of white plastic bag right now. And then if I go to buy a clear plastic bag, I gotta find the right size. And if I don't, my wife's gonna be buying new garbage cans. Spend more money again. So, you know, it's a lot easier to work with the people. And the reason here I recycle is because your system works. So just modify it. Make it better. Make people aware. You go a lot further like that. That's my belief. It's a lot easier to attract flies with honey than it is with vinegar. That's it, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you.
We will be looking at this with the interest of the public.
Thank
So
you.
we will be doing that. We're going to do everything we can. All right, question period.
Moving to part one, consent agenda, moved by Council Ray Dufour, second by Council Ron Duplessis. Be it resolved that item A1 to F2 inclusive, contained in part one consent agenda, be adopted.
All right, in the A section, is there any questions or comments? In the B section, is there any questions or comments? There are no matters arising from in-camera sessions. There's no business arising from board and committees. Under the E section, are there any questions or comments? Under the F section, are there any questions or comments? Councilor Ron.
Under departmental report for the Public Works Department, I noticed here it said water meters, letter mailed out July 31st to all water meter clients. I don't know if we were given a copy of those letters. I would have liked to have seen what the letters said, what was on them. I don't know if anybody else was curious. I don't know what.
I'm sure that.
We can give council a copy.
Could we,
From-
please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments concerning? Councilor Bill.
The water meters now, I'm assuming because those letters have gone out, we've got them all installed and the meters are working for all the businesses. Is that fair?
I think there was some remaining work that Neptune is still doing. They are coming to town in a couple weeks to do some testing on the readings. So we'll be doing some testing in our software to ensure that the meter readings are fine. So the actual bylaw for the water meters will come to council at the next meeting.
I wouldn't mind seeing, once we've got that all working, a report showing what the businesses are actually using, okay, not individual businesses, but businesses as a whole. Because the rationale for doing this was because the water study suggested businesses were using a lot more of the water than they were paying as part of the share of the cost of it.
Yeah, definitely that will be forthcoming. We aren't going to be going live with the, it'll be live as far as our readings, but that's going to be kind of, the program will coincide with the invoicing that we currently have with the current bylaw to ensure that everything is running smoothly and the readings are proper and, you know.
Yeah.
But for sure, council will get it.
Any other questions or comments? None, all in favor? Carried.
Moving into part 2 of the regular agenda, item G1. Moved by Councillor Ron Duplessis, seconded by Councillor Ray Dufour. Be it resolved that bylaw 2804/17 be adopted, being a bylaw to rezone 585 Old Wellwood Road from rural to rural, special exception 4, in order to permit an automotive repair shop accessory to an existing residential dwelling.
Any questions or comments?
Just the fact, Your Worship, that it's nice to see that there's people still with the entrepreneurship spirit that are going to start businesses, but I wish it was more in the downtown and commercial areas. But you can't force people to do that. That's why we have zoning amendments.
Anyone else?
Yes. Under the background for staff reports, the fire chief, he said the building requires an inspection for fire safety. And the building inspector must comply to the Ontario Building Code, but he doesn't say which one. And it's for oil and sand interceptors and exhaust fans. I read the code and I can't see where this might be, a problem. But I know for all new installations you must do this, but for this being as old as it is, and this is this basically a backyard mechanic just getting a zoning bylaw to be proper?
Yeah, so what the building inspector, it's an example.
Right.
Oil interceptor, and so the applicant, when he wants to open his business, would come in and meet with the building department to ensure that the garage that he is setting up in meets code for automotive repair shop.
Okay.
That's basically what it's saying. And same as the fire chief, opening his doors, basically the applicant would
Okay.
call the fire chief and say, hey, can you just come and make sure I meet the
Great,
code?
okay, because that's not what I got from this. I got more or less it was a contingency.
That's their comment. So when we circulate the application, those are the comments.
Right,
So-
because one has nothing to do with the other.
Well, what happens is, so if council approves this tonight, the applicant will receive a letter from me, from the planning department, and it'll have those comments
Okay.
on there. Your zoning bylaw, however, you need to contact the building department to make sure you meet the Ontario Building Code. You
Okay.
need to call the fire.
Okay, because normally with something like this, according to what I've read, and I mean, I could be wrong, but I think this should be checked before we go and jump, at him. I know if he's planning on doing anything and he requires a building certificate or a permit, then he should apply for one, definitely. However, for the oil and sand interceptor, it's normally because you're plumbed to the drain system of we'll say the town system, and you need to make sure that water is clean when it goes out. So you have that oil sand basic dividers in there, right? Now, normally it's the ministry, according to what I read, was the Ministry of Environment that actually looks into that. Now, this is why I didn't understand why that was
Well,
put there.
Basically, the building department's not gonna force him to do that if.
Oh, I see.
If he doesn't need it.
Right.
And that's an example of what he could require.
Yes, I was gonna go out there today and check it out. I wanted to see what it was all about, eh?
Yeah.
But because of the traffic being the way it is.
Yeah, no, this is things that, when anybody opens a business, for example.
Right.
If you wanna make sure you meet,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And that's the suggestion there.
Yeah,
Those are
okay,
things.
I just wanted to make sure.
That's a heads up.
Yeah, but one does not conflict with the other. A zoning bylaw is different than that of to be under the regulatory umbrella of a permit is different than the zoning bylaw.
That's right, so the property, if council approves it, will be zoned to do it.
Right,
It's just, does the building meet code? I don't know. And that's a whole different, that's up to the applicant to contact
Okay.
the building department and the fire department.
okay, the fire department has said this too, and he never stated under what grounds he wanted to inspect the building. Now, I'd like to see that as well, like the regulation he's using.
Okay, so you want them to refer that to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because there's only certain conditions by which this is allowed.
So the fire chief is suggesting that they call for inspection. The fire chief isn't forcing him to do it. He's just suggesting if you're gonna be operating that type of business in there, you might wanna make sure that you have,
Okay.
proper,
Okay.
whatever it is under the fire.
It just
code.
didn't look like that, and I want to make sure that, okay? I thank you though.
Yep, no problem.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
Item G2, moved by Councillor Bob Yocum, second by Councillor Ron Duplessis. Be it resolved that an exemption to bylaw 196607, setting off fireworks, and bylaw 118996, noise control regulations, be granted for the Camp Quality Reunion on Saturday, September 23rd, to allow the Espanola Fire Department to set off fireworks on the Tartan Field.
Questions or comments? Councilor Ron.
I think this has been going on for quite a number of years, if I remember correctly, and we've never had a problem. I think most of our residents would also enjoy seeing the fireworks, your worship, whether they're involved in Camp Quality or not.
Sure. Anyone else, questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
So item G3, moved by Councillor Stuart Mickelham, second by Councillor Ken Duplessis. Resolved that council for the town of Espanola permits the North Shore Search and Rescue to hold a voluntary road toll on November 18, 2017, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. between the entrance of Home Hardware and the entrance to Canadian Tire on Highway 6, providing the same security measures are followed as in previous years.
Questions or comments? Councilor Ron.
A very worthwhile endeavor, your worship. I know they've been doing it for a number of years also. These people that work there, they fundraise, they do a valuable service, not only to the people of Espanola, but all the surrounding area. They're called in whenever needed, day, night, winter, and they're there. I watch them training several times a year on my road. They've actually asked me to come on my property and do winter training and all. And it's great to see that kind of volunteers in the community.
They are an asset to our community and communities around us because they have a far-reaching scope where they do these things. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
The next item is just for discussion.
Oh, the next item is just for discussion, DSAP governance and accountability review. Any questions or comments about that?
Go ahead, Bill. You went first.
I'm not on the DSAP committee, but we definitely had some issues when it came to setting rents out at the
Nonprofit.
Queensway Place, okay, and Queensway Apartments. And I'd like to see a staff report prepared along with some input from the councillors who were on that committee to comment, so we have a little bit of something, because I'm not on the committee.
On what, the rental?
The DSAP.
On the rental?
Well, just the DSAP committee, okay, but we know one of the issues we had was that part of it, but there may be some other things that
could be
members on the committee have noticed and aren't happy with, and we need to identify those things.
There will be different councillors there now, Bill, just for clarification, than were there when that happened.
But it doesn't matter, anybody who's been on it should be.
I'll speak to because Bill's referring to the nonprofit, and I came fully prepared to speak to that, because I do sit on the nonprofit housing board. And I'll just read what I wrote. But inside the suggestions, they're making reference to the impasse, and that's their word, between the boards and municipalities, and having a clear system of resolution. Obviously, there was not. When it came to that rental increase, it was imposed upon the board, and there was no way to resolve it short of a very expensive court case. And so I'd like to suggest that it has to be a priority after that recent disagreement. It was very stressful, and it in the end, we all know what the huge rent increase was. As well as that, there has to be some, I would suggest, reconsideration of the double majority provision to make changes to the apportionment limits. That seems a bit far-fetched to have a double majority. Everything else in the world works with a simple majority in most cases. And the last thing is, which I think ties back to the nonprofit issue and other things, is the board composition is, again, it's in my opinion, I'd like to take a good look at that and decide that whether it's worth commenting on. The present system is definitely not balanced. We get two votes in a group of 14, which seems quite, well, they're using proportional representation to do it. It's just not allowing us to have a proper voice and to deal with differences between large and small communities, as an example. So those are my points that I'd like to see us touch on in the there.
Yes, well, I'm on the DSB. We just had a meeting on this not too long ago. The apportionment and that you're referring to, yeah, if you don't like the way it is in your book here, we provided in the back of the agenda, or Cynthia provided, someone did, questions that if you want to throw in your own 2 cents, they're willing to look at everything that you have to say, everything. We were at a meeting where we spoke on this, spoke a lot on this, and they're welcoming all councillors to get on board, and they will look at every part of the questionnaire that is here. So if you wish to do that, there's a Word program. It states it in here as to how you can get to it, and they would welcome that. Mm-hmm. They were very nice people, so I mean, absolutely.
I have been challenged by the fact that many great large decisions are made by a small group of people taken out of the 14. And to me, that's not a fair representation of all of us. And what happens when the committee makes a decision, and the decision could be millions of dollars, staff are involved, the CAO is involved, 4 or 5 people out of the 14 are involved, and then when you come together for a meeting, all in favor, put your hand up. And there's no discussion worthwhile from the others that didn't get on board during the discussion period. So the committee gets to make these multi-million-dollar decisions, in which I find really challenges me.
In saying that, every decision that is made there is brought up to us and it's explained prior, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Your Worship. It's explained prior to our voting on it. Now, there's only so much we can do as an Espanola body to represent the town. There's two of us there, and we try our best, to take all the information in, and hopefully we're doing the right thing every time we vote. But we are doing it with information. They do provide the information, so I would like to think that we're doing the job with the information that we are getting. We're doing it correctly. However,
Well, I'm not saying you're doing it wrong.
no, and I understand that. You're just wondering why sometimes
Yeah,
the
it
enforcement
just
is.
seems to me that it's a large selling job by qualified staff, and there's no room for argument, there's no room for looking at it another way. This is the way, and this is the highway type of thing.
Well, Councillor Duplessis can attest. I do talk, and I make my points if I have any, and they give me some pretty good answers. So I really
Yeah.
don't.
No, that's okay.
It's
It's just something that challenges me when I look at this.
okay, and I mean that's. We should look at it as a challenge as well.
Yeah.
Let our guard should be up.
Anyone else with comments?
I guess the one area of concern, and it's an outcome rather than the process, and that is, we've been seeing the DSAP rates go up at much higher than the inflation rate. And the grants that DSAP have been getting from the province have been going up as well. So they've been getting more money, but even after getting more money, they're spending so much more that the rates are up around, is it 5%, roughly around 5% inflation? But it's, if my memory serves me, it was somewhere around there. So I don't know exactly why that's happening, but it's something that we need to think about, okay? And when we come to the budgeting, how does that budgeting process work, and are we asking enough questions, okay? That's just my personal opinion.
And I agree with you.
Anyone else?
I was just gonna say to Bill, you remember, Bill, when Mr. Domaselli was here representing DSAB, and that point was brought up?
Yeah.
And what he said is every year they try to supply more and more services to more and more outlying areas with paramedics and whatever, and it's a very costly thing, and that's why, that was his reasoning behind why, even though there was increasing grants, rates had to go up to supply those services to isolated and remote areas. That was his jurisdiction, and he went with that.
Cynthia, did you have something?
I just wanted to comment that, they're asking for one submission per municipal council. So if anyone else has any other comments, if they want to email that to me, and I'll draft something and bring it back to council for approval before we submit it. But, now I lost my train of thought.
I did that a while ago.
Sorry. Anyways, yeah, if there's anything, just comment, and I'll try to summarize it and return it.
All right, anyone else? All right then. Conferences and conventions, there are none. Mayor and council reports and announcements. Bob?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Just two short things. One is that around August the 18th, and I'm sorry I don't have the precise date, but it doesn't matter really, a retired senior executive of the International Insurance Corporation happened to be in town and was actually present at a fire call to a home in town. And this gentleman has well over 40 years experience in the insurance industry, and he's quite experienced. He was absolutely impressed with the response time and the professionalism of our department. And he asked me, he specifically asked me if I would pass this on, and I'll see that the fire department hears about it too. And I see the food bank has an open house on September 19th, and that's another example of volunteers that are doing a really good job for the town. Thank you.
I have
Agreed.
Thank you.
Councilor Ron?
First of all, I'd like to start by thanking Mr. Foster for his report that he emailed, I'm sure to all of us, about his attendance at the EMO conference. Very well done, Bill, and I really appreciate seeing it. The other one was, I'd asked at the last meeting about the odor problem from the lagoons by concern by residents. And I know some residents just complain and they don't make the call to the mill because they figure nothing happens. And theoretically, very little does. And we contacted the mill. I think we should contact MOE because they would say what the guidelines are that the mill should follow.
I actually received another email today, which I was at a workshop today, so I didn't get passed on to council, but it gives detail of
From the mill?
Yes, of what it is. So I will pass that on and then let me know what you think.
Oh, yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Great.
The other thing is, I don't know if anybody's noticed, I see that we've started our work on Highway 17 again, as of September, I guess. And I know we had a letter from Cynthia a week or where she had attended that one small piece of Highway 6 connecting link from the DBI provincial boundary to our crosswalk. I went down there tonight, actually, before coming here, and I see they've shaved up to their boundary. I'm not sure, and I know, maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but I don't know if we've gotten more numbers to look at as council, because if they've shaved and we're looking at doing something, we really have to look at it soon. And I think it's a council decision whether we do anything or not.
So we have asked again, I think it was August 23rd, the date of the email where we ruled out the full reconstruction because it was just too expensive and wasn't justified. So that we then emailed them again and asked them for a price just for that one lane, the worst lane coming into town, the outside lane. And they haven't got back to us. So we too noticed the work and we tried calling them again, and we certainly feel that they don't want to be bothered with us. And we're having a hard time getting a response.
I know back 2 months ago, I called the Department of Highways Minister from Sudbury or someplace, and he said he'll talk to you on and whatever. So, no, I would like us to look at that, because if we're gonna make a decision, it has to be soon, or
We can't
it'll
make a
be too late.
decision if we don't have a number.
No, I know,
So
but there must be somebody for Econ, or call a ministry person to have
We've
somebody
talked
there
about
talk to us.
What's that?
we've talked with both, just as of today.
Of today?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't seem to be too anxious to do it. They want to do it for big dollars, but not for the paving and shaving. We haven't gotten anything back from them, so.
Well, that's all we were
can try
asking, I
again.
think, was paving and shading in the first place, I think. I don't think we're asking for any more than that, because there's no infrastructure there, that I'm aware of. So,
Yeah, we can try one more time.
yeah, I'd really like to see
Well,
it,
we're
because
still expecting
a call.
to get a quote, right? We've talked with them.
Yes.
I know we did have a quote from a private person rather than people, or
No,
not
we
private,
had
but a
quote-
business.
We had
From
a
them
quote from them,
and the
which
other
we
one.
thought was too high, so then we got a private quote,
Yeah.
which was a little lower, and then we went back to them and said, like, we thought that you would be able to give us a better rate because of mobilization, demobilization, and so on. And so they came back with a slightly lower rate, but it was still too high to really be justified in the opinion of Public Works. So we did decide, well, let's get a quote just to shave and pave the outside lane. And that's what we're having trouble getting a quote on. So whether, because we've asked too many times, or whether I don't know the reason, but we haven't been able to get that quote.
But I
We
think,
have followed up with MTO and Acon as of today, so.
but irregardless of the price, whether people think it's too high or not, I think it has to come to council to make a decision whether we as a whole think it's too high. Because if a private individual firm that was contacted think it's that price, I don't think it's gonna get any cheaper down the road.
Yeah.
So maybe whatever the prices we get, I think even if it takes a 10-minute special meeting of council, I think we have to do that and decide yes or no, and then we do it as a whole. Because we'll answer for it one way or the other.
Yep.
All right, anything else? Okay,
You're working your way around.
Stuart,
Yeah, I missed.
Ken, Bill,
I was at the AMO conference in August, okay? And we had a meeting, I had a meeting with the ministry on our Connecting Link grant requests. The bottom line is that the grant, we were told that the grant was good. It was, we did all the homework. There was nothing wrong in the way it was presented or what we're asking for. It's just that other people have more urgent priorities in the province. What they did tell us though is that we were looking for the road part of the grant and we were expecting to pay the sewer and water ourselves. They were saying that if we package the grant a little differently, we might be able to get some money for the sewer and water portion. The province has thrown another $5 million into the pot and they've reopened applications again, so that those are open till around mid-November. And someone in the ministry was going to come to see Cynthia and tell us how we may be able to repackage the grant and submit it. And maybe when it does finally get approved, okay, we might get some additional money. But it may be years, who's to say, before we get the money for that. One of the questions they wouldn't answer is how long this might take, okay? Because if they stop providing the connecting links and there's 330 kilometers of roads in the provinces that fall into this category, and there's, I guess we're up to about 20, maybe $25 million a year. That only covers about 20 or 25 kilometers of roads, and a lot of those roads haven't seen maintenance for a fair number of years.
I think Timmins could cover it all, your worship, for the next 10 years, all their minimum grants that they're handing out.
At the conference, I attended a breakfast and a seminar on risk reduction, and I've identified a couple things that we should maybe take a look at for staff. The AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, has recommended a 1% increase in the provincial sales tax to help alleviate infrastructure shortfalls. There's not enough money going in infrastructure to keep what we have maintained, let alone to build new stuff. And the province, or none of the parties, are going to commit to anything. Anyway, that's not a big surprise, but really what the AMO is looking for is money that is repeatable. It's like the gas tax. That's ministered by the AMO in this province. I wasn't aware of that. And that's repeatable money. We know we're going to get it. We're not being told where we have to spend it on, and we don't have to apply for things for a special project. We just budget the money, and as long as we spend it for the end use that it's allocated for and show that we've done that, it's great, okay? And that's the one thing that municipalities are missing, because every year we prepare a budget and we hope that we're going to get a grant, and we roll that into the budget, and if we don't get the grant, we don't spend the money. And it's hard to plan if you don't know what you're going to get on a consistent basis. I saw a little thing on trenchless water main rehabilitation, which is quite interesting. You can take a water main and you can clean it out. You dig a hole at one end and another end, and you clean it out and send a machine through to clean it out, and then you put a liner in there and you line it, and you don't have to dig up the whole road, okay? So that may be something that's of some use at some future date. I saw the LAS road inspection system. We approved a small thing for that to come into town. And I saw the software they had for that, and you can take sections of road, take the road network, and you can lay out how the time intervals that you're going to do the maintenance, the type of maintenance you're going to do, and it'll give you a forecast of what you're going to spend for the next 10 years. So it's going to be a real boon for staff to really do some planning in that area. The federal gas tax is gonna go up about 5% a year starting in 2018. There was lots of discussion about the cannabis legislation. It looks like the province has settled on an LCBO type thing there, but one of the things that's laid out there is that communities should start thinking about this, and some of your control is your zoning bylaws to make sure that cannabis isn't sold in areas close to schools and stuff like that, so you can use bylaws for that. Bylaw enforcement is going to be a problem for communities, okay, because communities are going to have to enforce the number of plants that are grown, the size of the plants. The legislation allows you to grow 3 plants for personal use of a certain size, and anybody who breaks that there, it's a bylaw enforcement issue. So municipalities are asking for money for some of that stuff.
Money going up in smoke.
Okay,
Ouch.
so we need to start preparing a little bit for some of this. It's not just the selling the cannabis is what they're looking down the road is food, chocolates with cannabis or cakes or whatever it is.
All those
So
are
you may have all these peripheral type businesses that are doing that, okay? And I don't know where the province is going to go there.
They went against it right now.
Well, yeah.
For now.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just some information. Attended a section on policing in 2020, and there was an expert there providing some direction there. He was, I think, the assistant police chief for Toronto. He's retired, or one of the assistant police chiefs. And one of the things that struck me there is that, we're seeing exponential changes in certain types of crimes, cyber crimes, fraud through the internet, and they were talking about cyber attacks, dark web, electronic currency, terrorism, viral videos, online radicalization. What we are going to need is specialized people to be able to address this, and that puts a small town like us at a major disadvantage when it comes to policing in that type of realm. Because you need experts, okay, to be able to do that.
I was under the impression they were gonna have their experts to do that.
Okay?
I was under the impression they were gonna have experts to do that.
Yeah,
Like,
but
for instance, Greater Sudbury, they have a task force right now.
they might have, but we're doing our policing in town here, and we're going to have to organize something in some manner.
Yeah, you can only go as fast as you
Yeah.
can.
Anyway, there was some discussion on Bill 68, and that bill is going to mandate that every council has a code of conduct, and it'll be mandatory that each community will have an integrity commissioner who will advise, educate, and investigate. Now, we can share these services with other communities, but that's something that's coming down the road from a legislative standpoint. When it comes to conflicts of interest, they're going to require all conflicts be in writing, okay? Like Ken, for example, pulled aside because he had an interest in something. These will have to be in writing down the road. There were a couple of win takeaways there, but one of the bills, we passed a resolution on Bill 148 because this was tied into the legislation with labor changes, minimum wage rates, and we passed a resolution because it looked like it could have a significant expense to our town. And Wynn has indicated that they're going to revisit this. It was never intended by punish communities. The OMB, there's some major changes coming with the OMB, and local planning tribunals will replace the Ontario Municipal Board when it comes to zoning issues. The OMB will not be able to overrule a community if the municipal ruling meets the local plan and conforms to provincial regulations. That's a significant change. And I attended a little thing on plastics recycling, and one thing I got out of that was that education is a key thing there. Lots of people don't know what they can recycle. And they were talking about 25% of baby boomers don't know what they can recycle or understand for sure, and 37% of millennials didn't. So part of recycling is to make sure that we educate people what they can and can't do. And the plastics industry has an online website that shows what can and can't be recycled, but it varies a little bit with ours, but it looks like styrofoam recycling will be coming down the road. Okay, there's a new process, but it may take several years before those things come into play there. But and I guess that's about all I have. Okay, just a small smattering of what I learned there.
Thank you, Bill. Future council meetings, there's a special meeting of council of September 20th, 2017 at 7 p.m. and at the Recreation Complex, Ringside Auditorium, concerning our police constant. Community Services Committee meeting of September 19th, 2017 at 3 p.m. Regular meeting of council of September 26th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. Call this meeting adjourned. All in favor? Carried.